Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to the GMS Magazine podcast. I am Paco Garcia.
And this is Chris from DSX Machina.
This is a podcast all about board games, role playing games, and the people who play them. And yes, behind that, it's my cute little dog who is playing and probably making some noises. Sorry about that. But he's too cute, and I'm not going to tell him to go because we have a thunderstorm. Can you imagine? We are in Spain in the summer pretty much now because it's in the middle of June and we have rain falling from the sky. The world is broken.
Well, yes. We had Prince George's weather has been up and down, up and down, up and down. So we've had rain and.
Oh, well, never mind. Okay. We have today a number of topics to talk about, and one topic that we are not going to talk about. And we are not even going to mention what that topic is, because at some point we will talk about it, and we don't like spoilers.
Oh, okay. No spoilers then.
So that's it. That's all we're going to say about that topic.
One thing I will announce, of course, is at the time of this recording, my Kickstarter has gone live.
Has it?
Yes, it went live this morning at 9 o'clock.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
How is it doing?
We had a pretty strong start, and we are just looking at it. We're about 3 hours into it. We've raised about 10,000 US, and yeah, that's about it. That's where we are at the moment.
And how much are you looking for?
30,000. We unfortunately put the needle a little bit higher.
Okay, so that means if you're getting 10,000, now I'm going to predictify that you will be getting to $89,627.
Yeah.
That's my prediction. Of course, I will not remember this number in the next 5 minutes, so I will need to listen to this podcast again. Do you ever listen to our podcast?
I actually on occasion will watch the video, not listen to the podcast, but I will watch the video.
And what do you think about our podcast? Are we great?
I think we're fantastic.
Excellent. Good. That's all I need to know.
So yeah, we got some news, and we've got some other pieces of interesting information.
Oh, yes.
I'm just gonna check somebody. Somebody responded based on the conversation we had just before.
About the topic that we are not going to say anything about for this week. Nothing. But people, you should be you should be paying us a lot of attention, because when we talk about this topic, it's going to be fun. It's going to be very funny and very interesting. So please do pay attention. So anyway, go ahead. First piece of news.
Okay, well, let's get the obvious one out of the way.
Yes.
It was filed yesterday that supposedly, if I remember the information correctly, the lawsuit from Wizards of the Coast to Justin William Lanassa of NuTSR or TSR LLC has been put on hold, as Lanassa, his company has filed for bankruptcy in the North Carolina Eastern Court. So that was filed on the 8th of June of this year.
In fact, I have the Bankruptcy Court Eastern District of North Carolina says in here. Let me see if I can bring this on the screen without messing anything up. Yes, I can. And it says, ordered to appear for examination, the court hereby designates and orders pursuant to Rule 9001 (5) Federal Rules of Bankruptcy Procedure Justin William Lanassa to appear and submit to examination on behalf of the debtor at the 11 U.S.C. 341 meeting of creditors scheduled for Monday, July 24th, 2023 at 9:30 a.m. And U.S. Bankruptcy Court appear by video, meeting information, blah, 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 Zoom, whatever. The designee is further ordered to file schedules and statements and to do any other act required by the code, the federal rules, bankruptcy procedure, and the local rules of this court, which is required by the data, and it's been dated on June 9th, 2023. So I think that he is basically trying to not have to pay for the ridiculous amount of money that Wizards of the Coast is going to earn in damages after they
Well,
undoubtedly.
not that much money. He doesn't have that much.
No. But
This
what
is
I'm,
like
no. But what I say is
they'll
that
annihilate his finances,
correct.
yes, but I don't think they're going to be walking away with a massive check.
No, but what I'm trying to say is there is
Yeah.
no way in hell that the court case between Wizards of the Coast and Justin Lanasa, NuTSR can be won by Lanasa. It would need to be one of those multiverse realities that is so far away in the fringe of the multiverse that it wouldn't even be touched by the multiverse because it's so remote, the possibility. So what I'm trying to say is that I reckon, allegedly, that this is possibly his strategy to make sure that when Wizards win, he has nothing that they can take away. And I wouldn't be surprised either if everything was in the name of his partner, so none of his assets can be touched. That's my adventurous and audacious assumption.
And I have seen people do that in my local life. I have seen people do that. So suffice to say, this is obviously to all those people who are the TSR haters. They're just throwing this up and just laughing their asses off. This will pop. I think TSR. They should push forward, or they should make a kind of an example of this situation. They should make sure that TSR LLC no longer exists as an entity, which will probably spell the doom for the Dungeon Hobby Shop and Museum as well.
No! Oh, that's terrible.
So because it's worth noting the lawsuit specifically names the Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum and Justin Lanasa personally as defendants in the counterclaim. So even if TSR LLC goes bankrupt, WotC could still go after Justin. Not to mention all of Justin's other LLCs that are a mess to sort through.
Well, whatever happens, I really hope that Lanasa gets what he deserves, quite frankly, because he has been an absolute crappy person beyond measure over the last few months. He's done incredible damage to the hobby. He's hurt an awful lot of people. He's lied about the products that he was going to come out. He's proven to be a racist, misogynistic, homophobic, transphobic bastard. And as far as I'm concerned, if this means that we never hear his name again, that won't be a second too soon.
Yeah.
And I am being mild. Believe me, if I said what I truly mean, I would get into an awful lot of trouble. What I would think, not me, I think.
Yeah.
So there you
go.
So that's
so supposedly, and like I said, internet sleuths are incredibly adept. So supposedly, according to paperwork, Justin loaned his TSR company $190,000 from a tattoo parlor, which I assume he also owns, because he apparently owns quite a bit. I don't know the accuracy about that. And there's also apparently something called an oxygen bar, whatever. I don't know what an oxygen bar is. I'm sure it's some. What is it?
I can imagine what an oxygen bar is.
Sells oxygen for recreational use. I just
knew it.
I got nothing on that.
Well, you can get pretty high if you breathe pure oxygen.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that it's some sort of legal high, which probably it is the estate that he was in when he said an awful lot of the things he said.
Yeah, supposedly also in filings, NuTSR, but not the museum, claims to have an assets of just $30,000.
Sorry.
And there's a few other things. Like I said, internet sleuths. TSR Hobbies is technically a LLC based out of North Carolina. The organization, formerly registered as TSR LLC, is legally based in Wisconsin. The bankruptcy is filed as TSR LLC based in North Carolina. So there's a lot of things that are being uncovered. just as things are happening. This is ongoing as we're recording this, because some of these updates are happening like
pretty much
in the
in
last
real
few
time.
minutes.
Yeah. Well, I'm just glad that things seem to be going south for NuTSR because, as I said,
Well, it generally does.
Yeah, no, but they're running out of excuses to say how great they are and how they're going to revolutionize the hobby and how they're going to, make Dungeons and Dragons great again, sort of rhetoric. Because that's what they've been doing over the last year or so. And seriously, they haven't done one single good thing. This is probably filing for bankruptcy and going away is probably the only good thing they will ever do. Mm-hmm. So good riddance.
We know this was only a matter of time. In the end, whether it be the gaming goat or TSR, eventually these individuals get their comeuppance. So
good.
Second piece of news, you said you didn't want to cover it too much, but it's something that's definitely going to be important. The release of Lorcana, Disney's upcoming collectible card game, is now in jeopardy because the Upper Deck company has issued a class action lawsuit against Lorcana publisher Ravensburger, accusing one of the game's designers of intellectual property theft. First announced in 2022, Disney Lorcana is a new competitive card game where, not unlike they do with the mythic characters in Beasts of Magic the Gathering, players can battle with each other using cards of iconic characters from Disney movies like Frozen and blah, 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 blah. However, Upper Deck is asking California Superior Court to prevent the release of Lorcana. The complaint alleges that Lorcana co-designer Ryan Miller, who previously worked on an as yet unreleased game for Upper Deck called Rush of Icor, lifted core aspects of that game's design and concepts to make Lorcana. Quote, rather than allow Miller to honor the agreements on their terms, Upper Deck has informed and believes that Ravensburger induced and intended for Miller to breach his obligations so that it could capitalize on Miller's knowledge of the elements of Rush of Icor game so that he can make a near identical game for it. This allowed Ravensburger to gain a competitive advantage and accelerated launch and bring a nearly identical TCG to market under a different brand. In the lawsuit, Upper Deck is demanding punitive damages, injunction relief, disgorgement of revenue, whatever the disgorgement, and income earned by Ravensburger based on such wrongful acts as ill-gotten gains and restitution of sums paid to Miller. In a press release, Upper Deck President Jason Mashera stressed the importance of the lawsuit, stating it protects the intellectual properties of both Upper Deck and its licensors. As of a few days ago, there was an update. Ravensburger Senior Communications Director Lisa Kruger emailed a follow-up statement regarding the lawsuit by Upper Deck to Kotaku, saying, "We at Ravensburger stand behind the integrity of our team and the originality of our products. The baseless claims filed this week are entirely without merit, and we look forward to proving this in due time." This is a total boilerplate responses. I've seen copy-paste of these exact comments. In the meantime, our focus continues to be on the developing and launching of a fantastic game in August. Now, from my perspective, the dangerous precedent that this may cause. Now, for those people who know, Upper Deck was the Western release partner for Yu-Gi-Oh! And they've done a handful of original games. They do, for example, the Marvel cooperative card game that's been around for 10 some years. And let's see. They've burned their relationship supposedly with every single one of the games they've had, especially Konami. Konami sued Upper Deck over doing something catastrophically stupid, which is why Konami took control over the Western side as well around 2011. Upper Deck also tried to copyright the term Magic cards for Yu-Gi-Oh!, even though it's collectively known for Magic the Gathering. Obviously, Wizards won that handily as well. And this is why Yu-Gi-Oh! Changed to spell cards, even though that broke a lot of theming in the game. So there has been a belief that this is a ploy from Upper Deck to try to squeeze some money, because Upper Deck, they don't really have Upper Deck doesn't really have a really good reputation for making good original games. I played a card game from Upper Deck that it's considered to be the second worst game I've ever played in my life.
Wow. Ouch. What game is it?
I think I've blocked it out of memory. One sec. I'm I'm trying to remember now get my collection up because I'm pretty sure it was one of the later reviews I did for the Dice Tower. I actually did this because I would never have bought this game, but it was handed to us from, yeah, there it is. It was sent to us from the Dice Tower. The one and only time Dice Tower sent games to all of its people. That's how I got Apocrypha, which is one of my all-time favorite games. But it's a game called Dread Draw. It's published by Upper Deck Entertainment. They've only put out one game, one box for it, and it's just a card game. But do you know what a dead draw is in cards?
No.
A dead draw occurs when you have a deck of cards and you simply just grab it, just cut it halfway and reveal the card.
Okay.
It is the simple, most basic gambling game in existence.
Okay.
You pick up the deck at a certain order. Whoever has the highest card wins. Now, this was quickly abused by magicians and card counting people who know exactly what to do to shuffle a deck in such a way so they can cut the card. And one of the most famous people, unfortunately, passed away. Ricky J could, in fact, grab a deck of card and because what do you want? You want an ace, and he'll cut the card exactly where he wants the ace. But it's an acquired skill. It takes a long time for someone to do that. He can do that. But Dread Draw didn't even have that. You always have to draw from the top deck, and it is a push your luck game.
Mm-hmm.
So as you might imagine, because it's Dread Draw, and you you grab a card, you have to play it, and you have to keep on playing cards until you get knocked out. So there's never a point where you can stand pat and see if the other person competes. You basically have to draw cards until you stop. And what you do, you have a deck of 10 cards, which is your life supply. And as you kind of lose health, whoever has more health whoever's the last person standing wins. So as you might imagine, there is zero strategy
Mm-hmm.
because the cards themselves, when you display them, just have a number. Some of them have a special ability, but only when you take that card away. Because when you lose your cards, the cards go into a separate pile, and you could go through them with special abilities, which means the first time you play the game, there is nothing you can do for strategy. It's only on the second round of the game can you actually start doing things, and even then, it's entirely situational based on requirements on these cards you get, which are so minor, they barely change the effect of the game. So my wife and I played it. We did the review for Dread Draw. My wife thought it was the dumbest. The funny thing about the game is that I played the game by myself, and then I showed her to play it, and I was waiting for her to say, "You got to see this." And I didn't skew her opinion, but I showed her the game, and she went, "Is that it?" I was like, "That's it." She's like, "That's awful." I was, yeah, the artwork is amazing. The artwork is amazing, but I gave it a 2. It's not like in this grand scheme of things. There are worse games, but in my top 10 worst games of all time, I do believe it's officially, I think, number 2.
Wow.
Number 1 is a game called The Great Dalmoody, which I've said is the absolute worst game ever made. Wayfinders, Machikoru, Founders of Gloomhaven, Dread Draw, Saltlands, Monopoly, Kanagawa, Mission Red Planet are all rated 2 stars for me. So they're all on my top list. And then Dalmoody is the only one that's a 1.
Impressive.
But that is Upper Deck in a nutshell. Let's just be honest about them. They don't really have the greatest reputation. And the other issue, before I'll kind of defer over to you, is that if they're trying to copyright their game mechanics, that could create a very, very, very dangerous in the long run. Upper Deck, I think the only game that they're really known for as being a good game is Legendary, which they've made multiple versions of. They have milked Legendary for all that it's worth. And it should be noted, and the funny thing is, if you go to the board games that they've published, they have an atrocious score average. Avatar 5.6, Bionicle 4, Bratz 5, Breaky 1.7, Bring Out Your Dead 6.3, Card Captors Trading Card Game 4.9, Dark Legacy The Rising 2.9. I've never seen ratings this low. I have never seen rating this low. Firefly, Shiny Dice, 5.4. They have 183 titles, and you only start seeing the good games when you get to Legendary. Legendary is the only game that they have, to my knowledge, that's over a 7. Everything else has been kind of atrocious. And we add Legendary, we played it. I've been told that Legendary Alien and the other the offshoot versions of Legendary are actually far superior, but we have not we haven't gotten that. It's too bad because I've heard the Alien games are actually quite fun. I played it once, I thought it was awesome. But we have Legendary, we haven't played it in a very, very long time. But yes, Upper Deck does not have a very good reputation. And I thought, oddly enough, ironically, Ravensburger is kind of new to the gaming scene as well. They, of course, have, like for me, for many, many years, they were the puzzle people. So I wasn't aware how much they were going into games because that was their shtick.
That surprises me because I have seen, maybe because I'm here, and I've always remember since I started to go to Spiel in 2011, I always remember Ravensburger to have a big presence and be very, very large.
Yeah, I mean, I know that like for when it comes to titles, like they're known. They have the Castles of Tuscany, Year the Dragon, Labyrinth. Like but they're not really known for like their Legendary games. I think that they do, if I remember correctly, they have a Minecraft game. I could have sworn they're the ones that did the Alien cooperative game, but I guess not. Who did the Alien cooperative game?
Anyway, I think the reason why I am interested and I am not on this case is because it's going to take a long time for any verdict to take place, and it is one. Sorry,
the Alien Fate of the Nostromo is a Ravensburger game. Okay. I thought so.
Okay, so
sorry, go on.
I reckon the issue I have with this case is if they're trying to copyright mechanics. I know that can be done. It's very hard to do, but I know it can be done. I mean, Wizards of the Coast did copyright tapping the card. So I think you can turn the card, you can create a game where you can turn the card as a mechanic, but I don't think you can call it tapping it.
You can't. Magic the Gathering has copyrighted the term of tapping cards, which is the reason why they have to use other terms like rotating or what have you. So tapping is entirely a term that's owned by Magic. Now, that being said, the word tapping isn't, but an application of saying tapping as a way of tilting a card to activate an ability, which is a core idea for a lot of deck building games. So not deck building, but card games. That term is owned by Wizards of the Coast.
So
yeah,
so there is
Council of Burgundy.
There is precedence to game mechanics being able to be patented or copyrighted in some way. So I wonder if that's what they're trying actually to achieve, because I cannot see, and I am no lawyer. I hasten to add, so I don't, and I more importantly, I don't know how American law works either. But I would be very surprised if they were able to, claim that designing a game and applying the same mechanics to a completely different theme game is going to be copyright or IP theft. So I really wonder what they think they have, because I don't think they would go into this if they didn't think they have a solid case. But then on the other hand,
I think it's because it's an ex-employee that's moved on and is designing a game with similar mechanics, and that's where they think he has taken their property from there. The issue, like I said, you were talking about game mechanics. Remember, tapping, just the term is copyrighted, but the act of tapping can't be copyrighted because there's a 1,000 games that have that. So you can copyright a term, which is what they did, but they couldn't copyright the mechanic, which is the reason why we have Magic the Gathering clones. So it's going to be a very interesting thing. And the funny thing is, Ravensburger might have a case because of the situation where the games designer moved from one company to the other, because they know that in video games, this happens all the time. Companies have sued other companies because their staff have left and taken property with them, which is the reason why when an employee leaves a company like this, they are escorted from that company and ensured that they cannot take anything with them that could be used by a competitor.
But that doesn't seem to be what's happened, because at the end of the day, you cannot stop. For instance, if I were let go from my company, they would not be able to take away from my head all the designs that I have created. So if I went to another company and suddenly started to create infographics, e-learning courses, layouts, or even the script to some of the shorts that I am directing for my company to a different company, they would not be able to stop me from doing that. And I don't think they would be able to sue me if I designed another infographics with the same layout but different graphic elements.
Well, you hit the nail on the head there, and I think that's been the big issue with trying to copyright a process, which is not allowed. That's been established. This has been established since the monopoly court cases failed, and it's a very fascinating situation where I guess I know they're doing it from the computer game company standpoint, but I'm worried about the precedent if they're able to do that. Now, that also being said, I don't know how much backing Ravensburger has from Disney, if the Disney side. That being said, Ravensburger is maybe hoping that they're not going to get any money at all. They're hoping the lawsuit results in Disney cutting the contract and damaging Ravensburger. And that's all they want to do. They want to punish Ravensburger for it because they know. Now, if this situation was personalized, like I have a collaborator now, and if he developed a really cool game system for me, then either I let him go or he quit. And then I immediately see him developing that exact same rule set for a rival publisher and is able to put that product out before mine. My perspective on that is there's twofold. One is that I wouldn't be able to file a lawsuit because I know I can't go after him for mechanics, because we can't own that. Now, my situation is different because all of my mechanics are based around D&D using OGL, and that is all public source stuff anyway. But all I could do was allow the community to judge. And this is where I think Upper Deck might have missed the plumb, because they're looking at a situation where now Upper Deck is suing Ravensburger, and from the looks of it, the community is not on Upper Deck's side on this, because they understand the precedent, they know Upper Deck's reputation, they know what they've been guilty of in the past. So I think if Upper Deck just spun this in a way that said that Ravensburger were thieves and like that, and then spin it around so they were being the victims in this, I think they would have countered and gotten the public on their side. So when the Lorcana came out, there would be this massive grassroots movement of people attacking the game for stealing mechanics from an unpublished Upper Deck game. But because they're moving forward with the lawsuit, a lot of Upper Deck's past transgressions are now being brought to the light, and suddenly they're being painted in a less light than I'm sure they would want to be in the situation.
I think there is a certain amount of Streisand effect going on in here. You know, they've tried they've tried to paint themselves as the victim, and they're just showcasing that they are not really that clued up about this thing. So, as I said, I really don't know where this is going to go, which is one bit. Are you just trying to reach an agreement? Because I cannot see how they can win. I just can't. So I wonder, what they have that make them believe that they can do it. I wonder if they hope that Disney is going to jump in and say, hey, don't worry, we'll settle here. Have a couple of millions, bye.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's...
Yeah, there could be a settlement. Ravensburger is actually big. I wouldn't be surprised if Ravensburger was bigger than Upper Deck. I don't know how big these companies big, but I think Ravensburger makes bank off their puzzles. You go to a store that sells puzzles, Ravensburger owns that entire shelf. And like I said, they do have more well-known games. I'm looking at their list now. I forgot the titles you were talking about it, but yeah, Castles of Burgundy, Puerto Rico, Quest of El Dorado, Raw. I forgot they do Horrified. That's a big game. They do Calico, so they don't do everything perfect. Tikal, Bora Bora, San Juan, Notre Dame,
Those are
Carpe Diem,
huge games. No,
Glen Moore, One Night Ultimate Werewolf, Taj Mahal, Las Vegas, which is apparently which I've heard. I think Tom has talked about that game to death. All the expansions for Villainous, obviously, and Villainous itself, which is a huge, massive game.
I think
yes,
really,
they're definitely larger than Upper Deck.
I think Upper Deck is trying to either gain some sympathy, which they are obviously failing to do miserably, or trying to get to a point where they can reach an agreement that Ravensburger doesn't need to agree with, because they have plenty of money to take them to court and see this to the end. So we'll see what happens. I think it will be interesting to find out, but I reckon there's going to be another perhaps year to year and a half until there is a verdict on this matter, I think.
Yes, exactly. So we'll see what happens. I wouldn't be surprised if this never ever see the courtroom.
So anyway, during the week, to jump onto another thing, you sent me a wee message about this company actually issuing refunds.
Yeah, I went looking. So even though the game itself originally was a tabletop role-playing game, and it's had board games, the actual company that's issuing refunds is a video game company. So, but it was interesting the fact that for the first time ever, a Kickstarter campaign is issuing refunds, which I'm sure is not true. I'm sure there's been other instances.
There have been some. But just for your information, humans, beings, the Otaku headline reads RPG of... Go away, cookies. RPG starts offering... Oh my goodness, this is so annoying when this thing begins to have advertising all over the place. Offering refunds for people sick of waiting years for it to come out. And we're talking about Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 that was supposed to be released in 2020. And they're issuing refunds, which I reckon that means that they're probably never going to release it.
Yeah. So it's an interesting thing. So when it comes to other pieces of news I have, I know Pathfinder is making a video game. They're on Kickstarter as well. There's been a lot of talk about Warhammer. There's been releasing new Fallout tabletop miniatures. There is a Fraggle Rock card game coming out.
What?
Yes, River Horse is closing in to ship the Fraggle Rock card game. For those keen to get their hands on this fun-filled game, the window for pre-order remains open. The game is a mix of excitement and nostalgia with two distinct games housed in one vibrant package, Snap and Where's the Fraggle. So we have two games in this card game. Looks to be all images, like all drawn artistic images, so it does some use screenshots of everything. But yes, there is a Fraggle Rock card game. I have a personal connection to Fraggle Rock. My teacher, my screenwriting teacher in college, wrote for Fraggle Rock. So, and that was the thing. Whenever someone talks to me about my history, I was like, I was taught by an established screenwriter, and they're like, "Oh, what did he write?" They go, "He wrote for Fraggle Rock," and they believe me because no one makes up something that weirdly specific. I mean, he can say he wrote a script that got ripped off and turned into Free Willy. People go, yeah, whatever. You see, I wrote for Fraggle Rock. You're like, really? You're just automatically the most obscure thing you can possibly think of. And of course, at the recording of this, we are 1 week away from what is most certainly going to be the biggest Kickstarter, biggest crowdfunding of the year. And that, of course, is the Gloomhaven 2nd edition. Bankrupt Kids throwing all their weight. It's front page. They have a grand festival. They're having a whole party. It's 6 days, 19 hours. I think they're up to 78,000 people are following this campaign. which is 78 times more than what I did.
Heavens. Okay. Shall we make some sort of prediction as to how much we think they're going to make?
I'm going to say probably in excess of 10 million.
I am going to say closer to 14 million.
Okay, so we'll see. I'm saying 10, you're saying 14. Let's see who's closest without going over. Like right now, for example, there are 200 some people just on the Gloomhaven Festival page. There's 200 people on their page for a kit that's not even starting yet. Now, it should be noted that I'm loving this because if you go to BackRocket's main page, you see this big launching on June 20th banner, Gloomhaven Grand Festival for the second edition printing. And if you look under hottest projects right now, I'm number 2. So we're hoping maybe we'll get to number 1 soon. We're about to cross 10K even as we're recording this. So we'll see what happens.
Good luck.
But yes, yeah. And the other thing, of course, is that there's going to be just a crap ton of people coming to BackRocket, and hopefully, if we're still doing popular, we may be on one of those. Hey, here's some other campaigns you might be interested in, and then mine comes to mind. So we're gonna hope and see if we can get some diverted attention from them. But we'll see what happens. But anyway, that's all I got for RPG news.
Okay.
Tabletop.
Good. So we can jump on to other topics.
Sure. I got one retro review.
Go for it.
Based off of and I want to talk about
Mariposas.
Now, for those people who don't know, there was a controversy about a few weeks between the founder of AEG, who publishes Mariposas, and the designer of Mariposas, Elizabeth Hargrave. She made a post about the difficulty of women becoming game designers in the industry. The founder of AEG then put his foot. He swallowed his entire leg, was what he did, and made a fool of himself, which he had to roll back on. But the reason why there's a connection between the two, of course, is because he published Mariposas, designed by Elizabeth Hargrave. Now, it should be noted that Elizabeth Hargrave is known for the designer of Wingspan.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if she has designed anything else since then. Let's see here. I actually want to check.
You know, I have to say, considering how huge Wingspan is and that it has several expansions, if she has actually designed that, I think she deserves the rest, because that game is giant. Have you played Wingspan?
Oh, everybody has. Everybody has.
Oh, okay.
Now, it should be also noted that she is also the designer for a game published by Button Shy called Tutsy Mussy. I have no knowledge about this. I had never known that this game existed until now. Obviously, it's a small game. It came out in 2019, so it came out, I think, because when did Wingspan come out?
2020, I think.
Wingspan came out in 2019, so this might have come out either before or after. She also has a new game coming out, or at least it might be, it's actually out already, called The Fox Experiment. It is apparently a game with some uncomfortable content. It basically deals with the kind of barbaric and cruel treatment of animals in long-term experiments in Siberia.
Wow. Okay.
So it's definitely meant to be the actual thing you're breeding your own domesticated foxes, and it's basically meant to be perfectly honest, one of those games that is trying to make a point while also being artistic. Now, it should be noted that this game is getting on average about an 8 out of 10, but its score is 6.7 because of the number of one-star reviews. People objecting to the content. Okay. Reviews are like, no for this horrible topic, terrible theme, domesticating wild animals for spots, floppy ears, and curly tails. What horrible theme. The argument that this is an actual historical event does not help. And it's a fun fact, as of today, September 10th, 2/3 of the number of 10 ratings for this game come from users in Russia, which I thought was hilarious. The theme of this game stands to be deeply long-term experimenting on animals in Siberia was barbaric and cruel. Based on my knowledge of scientific procedures in former Soviet Union, I suspect the foxes were heavily mistreated generation after generation. So this is a game that potentially could be controversial because it may be making light of something that was quite horrible. So anyway, that's your 2023 game. So this is Mariposas, which I'm sure does not have nearly as much controversy that, but it's probably her second most well-known game, but it's a distant than Wingspan. The issue is, unfortunately, this game isn't really very good.
Oh dear, no.
Ultimately, this is you're supposed to collect and breed butterflies, and you have these wonderful tokens with printing on them of the butterflies, which is really quite nice. And you acquire butterflies, and then you basically put them on the spring, summer, and fall cards. But it is also ultimately a racing game, because your potential for scoring depends on how high you get upon this tracker. You start over here in Michael watching what it's called, and then you travel up through the blue, red, yellow zones to green, and then finally to orange. And I think green is actually the last one. But the first, so it's not a game who gets up there the highest, but whoever gets up highest is going to score more points and be able to do more things. Okay. But unfortunately, because of that, it's one of those, like I had a game that was similar called Ulm, and Ulm is one of my favorite games that my wife made me sell. But it's a game that's you're a boat race. But that boat, although it gives you points, it only gives you points if you get way near the end. And most of the time you never do. Because the only way to do that is to focus entirely on the race and not to the other 10 mechanics that are in the game. Because as the boat moves along the river, it opens up new actions that you can do. But the actions that are behind you are still perfectly valid actions. And so you can actually win the game by being behind the leader because you focused on other elements, because you get points for that. The issue with games that have a racing mechanic is that in some situations, in many situations with these games, a flaw in their design puts it that the moment someone gets in the lead, they never fall behind it. One of the most perfect examples of this is a pirate board game. I'm trying to remember the name. Jamaica. Jamaica is a very famous game. Beautiful game. And it's a racing game. It's not really a pirate game, but because you're moving, but you're doing a circle around the island in a pirate ship. And we got rid of this game because we played it 3 times and I won every single time. And that was because I got in the lead. And if you're in the lead, there are certain things that if you get to these certain achievements on a board, you get to get a bonus. And this bonus can do things, including give you extra movement. So if you're in the lead, you're always getting these things before the other person. So your lead just gets larger and larger and larger, and because the people behind you can't pick up those bonuses. So it ends up being this leading advantage. So there's a distinctive flaw. Mariposas doesn't have that per se, but it still suffers from the situation where whoever gets in the lead at the beginning of the game is going to be leading the game and will most likely win it. So in the times we played it, in every single situation, within the first 10 minutes of the game, you know exactly who's going to win, but determining about who gets up first. And my wife is perfectly good at those games. There are some racing games that are better than that. I mean, there's a great 2-person game called Odin's Ravens, which is one of our favorite games. But yeah, Mariposas did not rub me the right way. This is really interesting because butterflies were kind of a theme for a while. The point that it was almost like there was a run of these butterfly board games. Mariposas was just one of them. I'm trying to remember the other ones that came out around that same time. There is one where where the butterflies were on clips, and you actually had to clip the butterflies onto these vertical trees. And I thought that was a really cool mechanic. There were issues with production design, however, where a lot of these butterflies were popping off and falling off of their clips. There's another game called Fluttering Souls, and Dust. That's Dust in the Wings, which is another just beautiful looking game. It's one of those games where the box is almost entirely white, and then there's a branch and a butterfly on the cover, so it's very reserved, but it is it's a really beautiful game. It's got about the same reviews as Mariposas, so unfortunately a good chunk of these butterfly games that came out all around the same time period, 2019, 2020, unfortunately most of them aren't particularly very good, which is too bad. But yeah, there was actually quite a few butterfly games that came on the market around the same time, and I played only one of them, and it was Mariposas by Luz Hargrave. I would give it a solid 7.
That's not bad, actually.
No, you know what? I'm going to drop it to a 6. I'm going to say a 6.
I think
I'll say 6. It's not a horrible game. It's not a horrible game, but the issue, of course, is that when you're grabbing a game that's from the creator of Wingspan, there is a little hype to go along with it. There's like, well, this is done by the creator of Wingspan. It's like, it was the same type of disappointment when I played Founders of Gloomhaven, which is done by the same guy who did Gloomhaven. And to see how atrociously badly made that game was, I was just like, what was Gloomhaven a fluke? So yeah, it's I feel like every game designer, I think, probably has a blight on their resume.
Well,
name a game designer who can find a bad game that they
no,
made.
but then to be honest, I don't blame them for that, because I am a designer. I'm a graphic designer, art director, and not all my creations are great. Some of them are just really bad, and sometimes I have a fluke and I make something absolutely gorgeous, or I have an absolutely incredible idea. But I cannot consistently keep that up all the time, because it would be exhausting, and quite frankly I would be earning a huge amount of money comparatively speaking to what I'm earning now. So yeah, it's I don't blame them. I do not expect every designer to have a perfect game just because they have released a perfect game once. It's not fair, and also, to be honest, considering how much publishers have an influence on how the game actually ends up being like when it's published, I wonder how true to the original design Mariposas actually is.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. You could have a situation where the game got modified and distorted, and it could be like Elizabeth has to kind of sit on it until her non-disclosure agreement gets released. Like, we don't know. I guess these are all things that could be happening. Sure. I'll say in a moment of personal boasting, that my company so far has a pretty good average. I think I'm pulling a 4.5 out of 5 stars on Drive-Thru-RPG for my products.
That's impressive.
Obviously, Ultramodern 5, all Amethyst, they're all pretty highly rated.
Good. They deserve it to be, I'm sure. Okay, let me see, because I just dropped something that
But that's my retro review.
Okay, well, I have a modern review, a science fiction review, in fact, because you know that I am pretty keen nowadays on Free League, because they are making absolutely amazing games. They seem to be really good people who hit it on the nail all the time, and they've sent me a few games to read, and every single one of them has totally exceeded my expectations. I have also, and I'm saying this because I want people to understand that I actually know what I'm talking about. I have played Forbidden Lands for over a year. I have read and played and run Alien. I have also played Mechatron and Mutant Year Zero, which are amazing games. And I have read and now playing Blade Runner. Oh, and Morg Borg. I've also played Morg Borg. So, Blade Runner starter set. I did a review about this. It's absolutely amazing. But what I am enjoying the most is the adventure. Now I'm going to do this in 2 slots, one without spoilers, and then I will warn people and give a few spoilers. So you will know, listen, the viewer, when I'm going to do this. The gist of the adventure is your team is going to be a team composed of 4 Blade Runners, 2 humans and 2 replicants, and you're going to be given a case to investigate the murder of a Blade Runner replicant in a nightclub.
Right.
And it's a case that's quite urgent because there are some other interests going on that want to make sure that this case is sorted out ASAP. But the Wallace Corporation is the one that really wants to get this sorted. So, as I said, I'm playing this with 2 different groups of people. One of the groups have played a lot of role-playing games. This is a group I play with on Thursdays, and to put it mildly, we have never been able to play a one-shot in less than 5 sessions.
Wow. Yeah. I try to make my one-shots, well, obviously a one-shot should be 1 session, but for me, the adventures I make all seem to be 3-session titles.
Well, in our case, we're just very slow. And we explore everything, and we spend tons of time role-playing and doing the most ridiculous amount of things ever. And laughing. We laugh a lot. We could create easily, but it would be in Spanish, a Call of Cthulhu comedy show. That's how...
A Call
of Cthulhu comedy show. That's how ridiculous we are. So I'm playing with them. And then I'm playing with another group of people. And out of that group of people, 2 are completely new to role-playing games. They've never played before. And the other 2 who have played a few times. They're not massively experienced either. Now, they are both playing at a similar rate and enjoying it exactly the same. And this is not to say, because this is, I reckon, what makes the adventure really well designed, it is not a railroaded adventure. Yes, you have a very specific mission to find out what happened to that Blade Runner. But you have a huge number of places to go and a huge number of people to meet. And every single one of those people that have any relevance comes with a card, like a deck of cards, with their photograph, or a mugshot, as they call it, or a proper police file printed. Every relevant evidence or piece of evidence that the Blade Runners are meant to find are perfectly printed with an art direction that really makes it look as something that would come out of the 1980s film. As one example, there is every piece of evidence is printed on just one side, except one that I will describe later with the spoilers, except one. And none of my friends even considered looking behind before I told them, now you can, turn it around.
Yeah.
And not because they weren't curious, but because that and every other piece of evidence is so well printed that they didn't even think that they would need it. If there is a photograph of an interior, like an apartment or a nightclub or something, all the clues are so well depicted that just by looking at them, you will say, oh, can I look in here? What's that thing there? Can I investigate this? Can I find out more about this bit? It is that well done. So honestly, it does get a little bit, you have to be a fairly experienced GM to be able to follow everything. Because something else that they have done really well is that wherever you go, you are going to find some clues that if they don't become apparent on the spot what they mean, you can take them elsewhere to a specific location that will reveal what they mean. So it is very hard to get lost. But then on the other hand, that means that as a GM, you have to be able to handle so many spaces, so much information in such a short adventure that you really have to be very clued up and on top of what you're doing. Otherwise, your players may not, but you could find yourself getting a little bit lost and having to flip through the book a lot. And that means that's what I had to do. And the book is already falling apart. Literally. So
yeah, I've been in that situation.
I am loving it. All the 8 people I am playing with are loving every second. And both groups have told me how easy it is to believe that what they are seeing, what they have in their hands, is actually real. It is that immersive for them.
Yeah.
So quite frankly, I just think it's an absolute masterpiece. So if you were thinking, I don't know how it relates with the core rulebook, okay? Because the rules do refer the core rulebook fairly often. The rulebook in the starter set. So I reckon that it is far from being complete, but it certainly has absolutely everything you need to run the adventure. So as a starter set to really get you going, when I read it, I knew it was perfect, but now that I'm playing the adventure, it's like, wow, wait, give me more. Give me a lot more of this. So if you're thinking about getting this and you don't want to hear the spoilers, stop listening to the podcast now, because here come the...
or skip a few minutes.
Yeah, I don't know how many minutes, but yeah, at least 10. Okay, so let's start with the spoilers. One of the things that I'm liking the most about this adventure is the moral gray areas that the players are put into. When you start the adventure, it is apparently a very clear-cut kind of adventure. Find the murderer. But very, very soon, it would appear, everything begins to point out that the murderer is actually your colleague. And everything immediately starts to point out on the fact that your colleague, who is a replicant, is unhinged. She cannot pass the baseline test. In fact, she has failed the baseline test a couple of times already, so she could be very easily decommissioned and reset. But you don't know why. And you begin to find some clues as you investigate, and you get to meet with the Wallace Corporation PR department, who is also a replicant. Have you watched the second film, Blade Runner 2049?
Like a gajillion times.
Okay. The replicant from the Wallace Corporation who is an absolute cow and kills the hologram at the end.
Yeah.
Just because she can. That is the kind of character from the Wallace Corporation that you meet.
Right.
It is that unpleasant. So eventually, although the players are Blade Runners and you need to be getting, the murderer, but what's going to transpire is that the murderer has been implanted with some memories that are so cruel so traumatic, so horrifically debilitating, that it would be basically impossible for not just a replicant, but also a human being to live with that without any consequence. Imagine that suddenly replicants, the N9s in this game, they are implanted with some realistic memories to try and keep them as close to human as possible. They can hold on to those memories.
Yeah, pretty common aspect of the setting, yeah.
Correct. So in this case, the murderer has been implanted with the memories of the trauma of losing a child.
Oh, well.
It is really brutal. Really, really brutal. So basically, she can't live with that easily enough. She can't. So the Wallace Corporation wants to find her and decommission her, so nobody realizes, nobody finds out that they have been conducting very unethical experiments on some replicants to try and perfect the techniques to keep them at bay. So as the adventure progresses and the players begin to find that out, to see how loyalties split between replicant aware or not, or replicant not aware, or replicant scared people is fantastic. Because I have in one of my teams, one of them says, I'm a replicant, but I want to find her, and I don't want anybody else to know, because if this came out, there's a group of human supremacists that they have a magazine called Kill. If that came out, the damage to the replicants would be unbelievable. So it would be in the best interest of replicants to make sure that she's either decommissioned or somehow disappears. So the adventure plays really, really well with these gray areas and these moral conundrums. So for me, the fact that they have managed to obtain that, to create a huge amount of NPCs that are so credible, so cohesive, so congruent, not just with the setting, but with the adventure itself, really is unbelievable. If I ever were able to design anything even near to this level, I would die happy. So
wow,
it's fantastic.
You bring up, it was actually interesting, you talk about the implanting memories, like bad memories, into someone and seeing how they act. It reminds me a lot of the film Dark City. Have you seen that movie?
I don't know. What year is it?
Yeah, it came out in 1999. It came out so it's almost 24 years old now. And it came out a few months, I think. Oh, actually, it might have been 2000. It came out around the same time as The Matrix. That's been the whole conversation about that. Yeah, it's not. Oh, actually, it's 1998, so it came out before The Matrix. The joke is that some of the sets, some of the scenes in The Matrix were filmed on sets from Dark City. So if you see Matrix in Dark City, you'll actually see some similar sets because Matrix shot some of their location shooting on the Dark City sets. It's done by Alex Proyas, who's world famous for the guy who directed The Crow, the first The Crow with Brandon Lee.
All right.
He also did a bunch of other films, a fantastic film called Knowing, which is really underappreciated, and I, Robot with Will Smith. But he did this film completely original. This for Dark City. People know what I'm talking about, and you're all nodding because I don't think there's a single person who hates this film. Roger Ebert, the great Roger Ebert, named it the single best movie of the year when it came out. So much so that he offered to record an audio commentary for Dark City. It's the only one of two times where Roger Ebert recorded an audio commentary for a movie. So Dark City without spoiling too much, because if you haven't seen it, people have to discover this film because it's quite amazing. In fact, just by pure coincidence, Corridor Crew were analyzing the visual effects from Dark City just last Saturday, and great film, wonderful cast, astounding. Without spoiling too much, it starts off as a dated crime noir thriller,
Right.
and then it turns into Akira by the end. Like the shift from one genre to the next is kind of astounding. But without going too much detail, a character wakes up with only fragmented memories, and he discovers relatively quickly that there are strangers, strange beings that are observing the city, and they're swapping out people's memories to see if they act differently. And what they're trying to do is trying to find the human soul and seeing if there's certain things that memory won't dictate. So the main character was supposed to be implanted with the memories of a serial killer, but he's incapable of doing it. He doesn't feel the need to do that because his memories are fragmented. So in an attempt for this to try to find him, the strangers implant the memories that he was supposed to have into one of their own, who then promptly becomes a serial killer. It is a fascinating movie. I'm not even, like I said, people are thinking, oh, he's spoiling a little bit, but if you know the film, you know I am barely even touching the surface of what this film pulls off in its last half. It is astounding. It has one of the greatest underappreciated musical soundtracks of all time. Trevor Jones, who did the music for Dark Crystal, he just owns this film. It's one of the most amazing. The ending is insane. And there's some twists that I hope to God no one ever spoils. But it is a fantastic film. But it reminds me of what you were talking about just now about swapping people's memories and seeing how people act and so forth and so forth. It's just a fascinating thing. But Dark City, if you haven't seen it, go see it.
I have not, and I shall indeed. Well, yeah. So anyway, that's the starter set, the Blade Runner starter set. So I cannot recommend it enough. Seriously, it is amazing, amazing. We are enjoying the system very, very much. It's very quick. We're enjoying the chases. We are enjoying the battles, which are deadly.
How similar is the rule system to, because I know it's the same people who do the Alien game. How similar is it mechanically?
It is very much, the core rule is identical. You roll some dice, and you need to get a number of successes. One success will do. So for instance, in Forbidden Lands, you can get a pool of dice that can be huge, and every 6 is one success. You only need one success, but if you get more than that, then you can do extra things. In here, you roll 2 dice, which can be anything between 86 and 80-12. So the higher the die, the more chances you have to get a success. So you roll for your main ability, which can be strength, empathy, intelligence, and agility. And then each one of them has 4 abilities associated. So for instance, if you want to roll manipulation, if you want to interrogate somebody, then you roll empathy and manipulation. And each one of those is going to have a level, which goes from A to D. A being D12, D being D6. Okay. So you roll a D6 and a D10. If you get one success between those 2 dice, then you do what you were set to do. You can also force the roll. So if you don't get any successes, then you can roll again, but you start to accumulate stress. And if you roll once, then you accumulate even more stress. And stress will come with some consequences that you roll on a table. And if you get enough stress and you roll enough, your character could die, could disappear completely. So it's something that you need to do sometimes, but it's something that you have to be very careful to do. You have to manage that resource very, very carefully. So it is a fairly simple system that they have simplified to make it a lot more cinematic and a lot quicker to use.
Wow.
So
yeah, because it's there are tons of, like, I've been doing design. I haven't been doing it in a while. I have to go back into it design studios for people that are trying to figure out how to do their own game and so forth, and thinking about how to do my own version of a 5.5 system. And there are tons of ideas that I'd love to play with. Scaling dice is something I've done a lot with, but like I said, some of the things you mentioned remind me of some board game mechanics, and that kind of reminds me of like, yeah, there's some really insanely good game mechanics out there that people aren't really saying because when they're not playing these games. So that's cool. That's very, very, very fascinating.
Yeah, recommended. So there you go, people. Go out there and buy the Blade Runner starts because it's just perfect. So that's it. That's my review. So I don't have anything else to talk about.
And that's it for me. I got everything I needed to get out of my system.
Oh my god, it's so hot. Look how I'm sweating. It's disgusting. Sorry, why am I showing that?
I don't know.
Sorry,
what's the temperature? What's the temperature over there?
Well, it's the humidity more than the temperature. The temperature is meant to be only 23, but we've had a massive thunderstorm a few minutes ago, and that's brought the humidity to a 85% apparently.
We are being hit with massive rain right now, so its temperature has dropped to only 13 degrees. So
that's very cold.
We were in the high 20s yesterday, a high of 29. Unfortunately, we're going to get rain for the rest of the week. I really hope Sunday doesn't have rain. Sunday's Father's Day, and I have stuff to do.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Father's Day for us is on the 19th of March. So, what do I?
Oh, right, I forgot. Yeah, when it comes to certain holidays, like the Father's and Mother's Days are way out of whack. They're everywhere across Europe. Yeah, that's like us with Thanksgiving, right? Our Thanksgiving is a month and a half for America, right?
Yeah,
because they celebrate theirs late November. We celebrate ours in early October.
So, do we have anything else to talk about?
That is it. We are done. I'm gonna go for a walk. You're gonna go to bed, and then I'm gonna start going back to my writing because I've been working on this Kickstarter campaign, which is technically the responsibility of someone else. So I'm gonna let him do his thing, and then I'm going to go back into writing and work on my campaign, and then not think of this Ultramodern game, which is gonna be impossible.
Well, I am going to finish washing the dishes first, and then I'm gonna go to bed.
All right.
Humans, thank you very much indeed for being there. Remember to get hold of us, podcast at gmsmagazine.com. I'd love to hear from you. That's our email. And I am on Twitter, which I'm not being all that active at the moment because I have so much work to do right now at work that I don't get the time to think about what I want to tweet about. Also, I am on Facebook, even though I am not being all that active on that one either, but that's okay. I'm still there. I'm loving you very much, everyone. And I don't know, say hi, say something. I'd love to hear from you and tell us what you think about the show, if it is good, nice things.
Yes, this is Chris from Deus Ex Machina. Find me on everything that says Deus Ex Machina, and check out, of course, the Ultramodern 5 crowdfunding campaign that's currently on backrupt now.
Good.